Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and so I want to update you guys on what is going on with my reading right now. So I literally this morning I just finished March by Geraldine Brooks. So I'm gonna do a separate review on this book because it's a library book, and as I've said before, I think I would like to start get into the habit of doing separate reviews for library books, because I might not have them to show you guys, give you guys a physical image when I do my review. Granted, you guys might not care, but I still like to do. I mean, I could, skip doing a review if it's a book that I feel like I couldn't do a really good review for. Or I should say decent, because sometimes I think my most of my reviews aren't the best. But this was really good. This is, as the title implies, is about Mr. March, the father of Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy from Little Women. And I think if you loved Little Women as a kid, growing up, maybe, you might like this one as an adult, because, I feel like it really gets more into more adult themes, more mature themes, and gets a lot darker than the original Little Women novel. And like I said, I will explore more of that in my review, but I just finished this. And I really enjoyed it. It's a favorite now. I gave it 5 stars. So after that, I also continued with Everybody Was So Young, which is, actually, I never heard of this couple until this book. Like, I had knew, of course, about Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda, which you guys know I have a biography of her that I borrowed from the library. And of course, I knew about Picasso, but I didn't know about the Murphys. And Gerald Murphy was he ended up being a artist, like Picasso, while Sarah was an heiress, part of a family. And she had 2 sisters, and it was a long time before she got married. It wasn't like her parents didn't send her off to be, found by a man and get married, which I thought was kind of interesting. That her parents didn't really marry her off, and weren't obsessed with marrying her off like a lot of parents would have been. I think it was more of they selfishly wanted to keep their girls and coddle them, and didn't want to give them off to a man just yet right away to be married. But these two are such an interesting couple. All these people that I mentioned that I already knew about, were drawn to these two like moths to a flame. They were charming and just really delightful, and through these lavish parties, and everyone just adored them. And then they were the models for the divers and tenders the night, and people like Picasso and Fitzgerald just worshipped them and admired them. And in fact, both Picasso and Fitzgerald fell in love with Sarah, which is a little weird and creepy. And it's like, she's married. I mean, I'm sure she's beautiful and fun to be around, but she's married. Of course, this is a different era, a different time, and Fitzgerald, I already know I don't think I would like Hemingway as a person. I think he's intriguing, not my favorite author in the classics, because I've only read one book, but I don't necessarily have a lot of motivation or desire to pick any of his other books. I keep thinking about it, but I still don't know. But reading about Hemingway and his relationship with the with the Murphys, kind of is getting, his works back on my brain. I've only read Farewell to Arms. That's the only book that I read. I didn't like the writing style. And there was things about the main character that, as a character that I didn't like either. His love interest was kind of frustrating and not in a good way. But I don't know. I have thought about checking out Sun Also Rises and then The Old Man by the Sea. The Old Man by the Sea isn't that long. But now Fitzgerald is someone that I still kind of have a soft spot for his writing. But his stories kind of got repetitive after a while. It's like he wrote about the same thing. Now, him as a person, he sounds like a whiny guy, very clingy. He worships Gerald. And like I said, he was in love with Sarah. And there was a quote that I don't remember. I should have marked the page where it was, but because I don't remember it, but it was a very fascinating quote because it basically implies that he wanted to erase himself and become like this person that he admired and worshipped. He wanted to become Gerald Murphy. And in a different kind of story, in something that was like, if a work of fiction, you could turn that into a little creepy and stalkerish, a little obsessive, and maybe even dangerous. But now they didn't think very highly of Hadley Hemingway, which I felt bad for her when reading the fictionalized version of her in The Paris Wife, which I don't know how accurate that book is, but I definitely felt bad for her and how Hemingway treated her. He kind of eventually started to ignore her, and I think he had been married more than, a couple times after her, because I can't remember what happened to her. I don't think the book ended with something happening to her. I think they just got divorced or something. But now I like the Murphys themselves. Although I'm worried something's gonna happen between them. I'm worried they're gonna fall apart. We're gonna find out that they fell apart at some point. That their marriage fell apart. This book also makes me want to consider giving the Fitzgerald's work another shot too. At least his novels. But I don't know. I mean, I already made a decision to let him go. That's the problem sometimes I have, especially with classics, where I think maybe I should give him another chance. But I constantly go. There are some classics I constantly go back and forth with. But yeah, it's really I'm really enjoying reading about this couple and just reading about their interactions and their life stories, and their marriage is so sweet and enduring, and that's why I'm worried something's gonna happen. Their marriage is gonna fall apart. Now, like I said, I don't know anything about them, so I don't know if it is or isn't. But yeah, and just the way they talk about France and Paris makes me want to go back there, which, I mean, I've already wanted to go there. I almost want to go there more than Scotland and Ireland and stuff, or England for that matter. But I already went to France, so I would like to go to those places at some point. Especially because I would love to, do a Jane Austen-esque tour in England, explore all the places that Jane Austen, would go, or what she wrote about in her books. But yeah, they definitely, the way they talk about France and Paris particularly makes me want to go back there and just give it and in fact, the one time I went there, I feel like I didn't spend a lot of time there because my sister, was living abroad in, the countryside in Aix, so we spent most of our time there. But we were in Paris for a little while, but I would love to go there and back to Italy as well. Because both those countries I feel like I didn't spend, or at least Italy we spent very little time, and then we spent a lot of time in France, but not in Paris. So I would love to go back there. But yeah, so that was interesting. And then also I decided to go ahead and start George Washington's Secret Six, The Spy Ring That Saved the American Revolution. I was debating to go ahead with this one or the Zelda Fitzgerald biography. But I decided this is gonna be quicker, and that way I'll have like 2 books to return instead of having to only return 1 book and having to renew, 4 books. I think that's 4. It's the Zelda Fitzgerald, this one. Yeah. Oh, it's right there. So I have this one, March, Zelda, and then the Orchard. That's 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 books to. I'm reading 6. I have 6 library books, so I want to be able to return at least 2, so that I will have only 4 to renew. And this is not going to take me as long. It's pretty short. So, and I feel like you can potentially, unless it's like a biography or someone's memoir, or I think you can get through. I can get through nonfiction pretty quickly. Granted, now some memoirs, like the Titanic one, wasn't that long to begin with, so, and this one, like I said, it's not that long. It's only, let me see, let's look. Oh, well, there's 18 chapters. So, 18 chapters. But they seem to not be long chapters. I just read chapter 1, Hold New York, Win the War. Chapter 2 is The Need for Aspiring. I started reading that chapter, but because I wanted to film these videos, and there's, I wanted to finish watching the, Encanto on Disney Plus. That's on my fine design. Okay, how much do I read? And when trying to balance between reading and watching stuff. It's always a difficulty for me finding that balance. Because you pick one over the other, the consequences, the other one does not get as much time from you. So anyway, like I talked about in my library haul, if you have watched the show on AMC, Turn, and that's the same thing as this. I mean, I don't know if it's this based on this book, but I mean, I don't think it is, because I think there's actually a book called Turn or Washington Spies. I'll have to look that up. But this is kind of about the same. This is about the same thing, where Washington sent a group of spies so they could have more of a chance of winning the war against King George and his army. But I always found that really intriguing. Like I'm not a James Bond fan, but historical spies or anything like the American Revolution the American Revolution itself always interested me. But I've just basically had the one of their where Washington is very nervous because the battle. Let's see what battle it was. Like, that's a preface. Like, the British took New York City and Long Island. They had just lost a battle in Massachusetts. So Washington realizes, of course, that they need a little help. And the next chapter I'm currently reading is going to talk about the setting up and the spy ring. And I guess that's in Nathan Hale is all about that. Is the guy who is the leader of the spy ring. And I didn't, they mentioned his Washington's aide-de-camp, but I know from the Hamilton biography that was Hamilton. If they don't say that in here, unless he had a different aide-de-camp first and then replace him with Hamilton. But I'm pretty sure from the Hamilton book, that was Hamilton was his aide-de-camp. They don't mention him in this book. But, I don't know when this particular one was published. But yeah, I guess Nathan Hale is the guy who kind of leads the spies, or whatever. And I know Hercules Mulligan was, I believe one of the spies. Like, he was recommended by Hamilton, I believe. According to Hamilton. The Hamilton biography and the, Lin-Manuel Miranda musical. I can never say his name. But yeah, I didn't get very far because, like I said, I wanted to film these 2 videos, and then I want to, finish watching Kanto. Of course, with the way the weather's going, it keeps going back and forth from looking overcast and, like, it's getting ready to storm to looking bright and sunny. And there's certain movies certain movies and shows that are just hard for me to watch in the daylight because where my window is located. If it's actually still overcast and dark, then I can watch a lot of my fantasy movies because there's a lot of scenes in fantasy that are dark. Like fantasy and horror. Although you always want to watch horror at night because it makes it more scary. But anyway, so I'm gonna do that. And then I think I'm gonna read the biography of Zelda Fitzgerald like when I'm going to bed. Or maybe before that, so because once I'm in bed, sometimes that's when I really start falling asleep. So anyway, I guess that's really all I gotta say right now because, like I said, I didn't get very far in Secret 6. But anyway, if you want to share what you are currently reading, feel free to share in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to find out when I post new videos. And I hope you are enjoying your day and your reading. And I will talk to you all later. All right, bye!